Ninja Review, also known as Ben Schultz, asked me a simple question: have I seen this puzzle before? I didn't think too much of it at the time because lots of people like to send puzzles, and very rarely do I feature them on the channel. However, this position caught my eye because of the nature of the blocked pawns. You can see how none of the pawns can move, and the only piece extra that white has is this random knight. So I immediately started thinking if there was a way that white could win, and I couldn't come up with any ideas. So I'd like you guys to pause before I say anything else. Do you think there's a way white can win this position? And if so, what do you think it is? All right, well, if you had a chance to look at that, the big problem that we have is the king can't get through to attack any of black's pawns. None of the pawns can get through, and all we have is the extra knight. Now, sometimes in positions like this, you can sacrifice a knight for a pawn to gain some kind of advantage. But in this case, if we simply take the pawn, yes, we have an extra pawn, but black's king is just going to go right in front of it. If we push it now, he's going to come up and take it. If we wait and try to push it later, he's just still going to go blockade it. We still have no way to get through with our king. All right, so that's kind of the first problem. Now, some of you may have noticed that this knight, if we move our king out of the way, can actually hop around to some places. So that's the first thing that I kind of started thinking through. I said, okay, well, let's see where the knight can go to. And I noticed that, okay, we can hop all the way over here, and with a little bit of maneuvering, we can loop back around and go for this A4 square, which is great because it looks like now our knight is able to infiltrate and get into the black's position. Awesome. So we go here, black defends the pawn, of course. And even though he's temporarily stopping us, we can do a waiting move with our king. And now black has to move, which is going to allow our knight to come in, right? They have to continue defending the pawn, so they need to play king to d6. And that opens up the b6 square. Great. We hop in with our knight. Black moves here, and now the question is, what do we do from here? Well, yes, we can hop over to d5. And after black moves here, what is our plan, right? This is the problem. This is why I couldn't find a win for white, because I couldn't come up with a good plan. So if you guys want to pause again and think from here, what do you think a good idea might be? All right, if you had a chance to look at that, the move is knight to c7, followed by knight to b5. So if you remember, initially we hopped in from b2 to a4, and now we've essentially went to b6, to d5, to c7, to relocate our knight to b5. The big question is, why would we want to do that? Why do we want our knight on b5? Well, the answer is because we would like to play the surprising move knight to a3. And yes, the pawn can take the knight, but if black decides to do that, guess what? Our king's going to come over. We're going to take this pawn. Black can't really stop us. And after we get this position, this is a winning king and pawn endgame, because now we do have a way for our king to get through. For example, black moves here, we come up, black moves here, and we can simply play b4. And after this happens, we have this protected pass pawn. This is a winning king and pawn ending. Okay, great. So because of that, black cannot take our knight. But you might be thinking, well, that's great, but black doesn't have to take our knight. Black just leaves the pawns. And what are we going to do, right? Well, let's continue. So the king moves, knight to c2. King moves here, knight to e1. And now we bring our king over, which is important. And the knight goes to g2. Why does the knight go to g2? What do you guys think? Well, the idea is we want to go to h4 with the knight. And the first point is that if black does not take the knight, we're hopping into f5, and we're going to be winning this pawn guaranteed. So for example, black moves here, we hop in, we're attacking it, black can't defend it, and we're going to win the pawn. Even if, I should point out, even if black's king was sitting over here, let's just say, and they moved up to defend it, we could still waste a move with our king and still win the pawn. So regardless of what black does, we would always be able to win this h pawn. And in a lot of cases, we could probably even just hop over here and win the c pawn as well. So basically what that means is black is forced to take our knight. Okay, so they take it, we take it, and now the king comes up. And again, it looks like black is successfully creating a blockade, because if we push, he's going to take, and if we go back, he's going to blockade everything with his king. So what's the winning move for white in this position? Well, if you had a chance to look at that, the move is g5. We play it anyway. And the point is, yes, we're losing the pawn with check, but after king to g4, it's Zugzwang for black, has to move away. It doesn't really matter where, and then we simply win the pawn, and we go into a winning endgame. So the knight essentially had to loop all the way around, come over to a4, just so that it could come over to here, to here, to here, to go to a3, where it couldn't be captured, to loop all the way back over here to h4, where it had to be captured, so that we could get this Zugzwang and then ultimately get a winning king and pawn endgame. Pretty fascinating stuff. Thank you, Ben, for the amazing puzzle, which is almost as good as this one right here, which you guys should go watch right now. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.